The Bride is Maggie Gyllenhaal's sophomore feature, a gonzo could-be blockbuster which revolutionizes the Frankenstein mythology into punky heights. To be more specific, the film follows the eponymous The Bride, brought back to life for the sole purpose of companioning a lonely creature and their Bonnie and Clyde journey across America. It brings me no joy to say that The Bride is a disappointment of a film, coming from someone who was genuinely super excited to see what a morbid, punk take on Frankenstein could be. It doesn't help that the film was potentially musical, which tickled my fancy, and it isn't that. At all. There's one or two dance scenes, but there are no goosebumps on my front, which is all I was really wanting from this film. Where The Bride really works is in its visual aesthetic. This film really does throw everything at the wall stylistically, and I'd argue that it pays off. There's an array of glorious monochrome, sudden and potentially out-of-place cuts to negative, and bright, bold colours which are infinitely alluring to me. When the film shifts to its framing device of the deceased author Mary Shelley in a sort of afterlife, I swear this isn't a spoiler, it's literally the film's opening. The lighting of Buckley's Shelley is haunting and happily ghostly, laying on thick some of the desired horror-adjacent tone. Pair that with big, detailed sets, Dr. Euphronius' laboratory which is the site of the bride's reinvigoration, and the film evokes a tangible grungy vibe which is able to fit its setting in the 1930s. But even then, I don't think Gyllenhaal goes far enough with the look of the film. There are flashes of these grandiose atmospheric colours, but it's almost as if they're drained from the Bride the more the runtime goes on, opting for a brown colour palette for much of the latter half. Well, it's the muted brown which is clearly stuck with me. It makes the film less of an interesting watch as things should be ratcheting up, which seems counterintuitive. A belief I strongly hold when it comes to this film is that it has the best Christian Bale performance in God knows how long. I think his take on Frank, a lonely, pathos-imbued creature, is legitimately superb. The isolation of the character, with all his nervousness, is what this iteration of the famous monster is all about. The character's innocence is emphasized by the makeup and the sad puppy facial expressions he makes. Bale makes the antisocial loser shine without neglecting the more monstrous violent urges. But then Jessie Buckley is the film's driving force in, not one, not two, 3 roles across the film. Again, I doubt that it's a spoiler to say that Buckley's Mary Shelley is a surprisingly pivotal character, offering the film's framing device. So yeah, Buckley has 3 roles within this, and they're all fighting for one body. This, in turn, creates some wacky shenanigans. Ida, the bride before her accident, is the quiet version of the character who's given the least amount of screen time. Then, Shelley is an unhinged character who intrudes into the body to spout jargon, just shying from breaking a fourth wall within the context of the story. Buckley's embodiment of Shelley is a riotous and unhinged performance, cackling maniacally in her appearances. And then the main Buckley performance is as the bride, who propels most of the goings-on of the film. She is societally abrasive, pushing back against all forms of societal confinement, both on smaller and larger scales. At times, she exhibits the same sort of wild screaming as Shelley, but there's much more of an emotional down-to-earthness here, much required in keeping the film from fully derailing. The film has an issue with its pacing, I think. The transitions between moments feel forced or stilted. On the moment-to-moment basis, The Bride can be solid. Particular scenes are able to stand out, such as when Frank is in the cinema watching a film starring his idol, or when the bride is out dancing for the first time, but the film actively feels like it's the amalgamation of hacked-up pieces. It's not because it's a mess of inspirations, because I tend to appreciate a fully director-led vision, inspirations and all. To be frank, the moment-to-moment style of the narrative is able to use the inspirations to an extent to create something newish from derivative pieces. That's fine. It just feels tampered with. This may be Gyllenhaal's full vision, but it doesn't feel that way to me. It comes across as ham-fisted in a way that suggests the studio's hand in the directing of character choices will stray from making them seem ugly or amoral, or to superficially amp up themes which may have been on the nose in a kitsch way originally to garish, potentially corporatized levels. Again, this may not have been altered to such a degree, but it really feels like that by the time the credits roll. There are jumps into revolution, which could have been earned but they're not yet there, and come out of seemingly nowhere. I also don't think the film is able to fully explore its thematic sandbox. Given the concept of a man bringing a dead woman to life, non-consensually may I add, in the 1930s, there seems to be enough ground to cover for a full 2 hours. There are themes of SA, women's role in the patriarchy, and bodily autonomy. It's not the discarding of subtlety that irks me. I love unsubtlety. Sometimes a hardly mass punch to the nose is very much needed. To me, The Bride spins its wheel on the first two without going deep into either of them, and touches upon the latter in a grand total of one scene. Going back to my prior point, I think that this is a sign of a tampered vision. However, as it currently stands, the film is all flash and no fluff, if that makes any sense. Purely visual stimulus, while it promises a little extra narrative substance. All of its faults considered, I can't bring myself to call The Bride a bad film. What it goes for is certainly ambitious and, within the contemporary studio system, that is very much commendable. The set pieces, when they work, are perfectly fine without offering anything especially special. This is a showcase for Buckley's talents, if anything, and Bale is along for the ride, bolstering her with his own somber and yet energetic performance. The Bride. 3 stars. Well, that's all. Keep on watching movies and form your own opinions. See you in the next one.